great opportunities in other markets and all that for sure, but the markets move. The FX markets move. Let's jump in. So if you have markets you want to look at, just let me know. We can do that. Otherwise, I'll just kind of go through the list here. We have a lot of markets beginning to really move here, especially the equity index markets. If you have positions you're in that you want to look at, again, just type any symbols in the chat. I can certainly get to that. Probably important, though, that we start with the dollar. So let's blow this chart up. And here we go. So price is finally moving, and we are declining to this area of fresh demand where we expect the dollar to stop falling, turn higher, and likely move up to the 95.75 area where we'll find some supply. Ultimately, the dollar is likely to move lower as we have multiple fresh and quality supply zones above and not some demand below, but not a ton. But anyway, everything I just said there at the end, you're talking, weeks and weeks and weeks of that. Yeah, Mike, for sure. If someone wants to do some active day trading, yeah, I think you're looking at this chart right here. We can pull this up and go over some of those levels. Actually, let me put the chat box over here. Yeah, so we every morning we produce a supply-demand grid, and here's one of the levels that we're looking at today. I can share that with you. There's the 12, and then we have our distal line up at 16. So obviously the levels are down here. This is all seen on the 2-minute chart. Make sure you understand there's nothing magical or special about the 2-minute chart or really any time frame. Okay, we just look at multiple time frames to properly identify, one supply and demand. We're looking at one supply demand equation at each price. So it's not like there's any special time frame or anything like that. Okay, we just missed this. Actually, I don't know if we did. Yeah, we did. So by half a point. Let's scrunch up and see what we have below. I know we were coming in some levels down here. So we're not there yet. And let's actually do something else here that I do on a regular basis. Let's go down to the 1-minute chart. Okay, there's that 1 minute. And let's take a look. So I'm going to put a horizontal line across price down here because we're just bouncing, which is very expected from. You'll see what's over here. There's a couple little areas. We'll get a little bounce from that, so it's not one that we would take. But there's looking at all this. There's room for prices to continue lower. So I'm more inclined by looking at that to go back over here and look for some supply. So maybe up in here. I mean, if you're short-term trading the Nasdaq, the 98, 62, 98, 60. Yeah, up in here, that, and again, we may have just hit it, but all right, let's leave that alone. Let's go over to the S&P real quick and see what we have there. Let's put a horizontal line on the bottom and scroll left. Yeah, same thing. So we wouldn't buy against that, but we would probably buy against this down at the 72. So let's see if we can get this here. Just for a little bounce. I mean, if you're interested in, again, this is down in this area. You want to stick to fresh levels. That's the key. Fresh levels. All right, let's move on. Why don't we really back up here and go to some FX markets? Let's do that. And let's switch all the way over to spot forex. Okay. And the reason for this is, the dollar approaching that demand. Look where the euro is on the weekly. We're almost right in the middle of some supply here. Okay, so keep that in mind. Whatever we look at next, make sure you keep that in mind. So now you look at the really small time frames and you say, there's a nice profit zone below, um, possibly a short-term trade if the euro can pop up to the 117, call it 117.58, and then you need to stop above the high. Yeah, this one, I would say it is because for two reasons. One, and most importantly, you have a profit zone, all the way down to here. Number two, look where the euro is in the larger time frame. Be nice if the dollar was down into demand, but it doesn't have to be. Right? So let's leave that one alone. Let's go over to the yen. And the yen, what I had here for you. Oh yeah, one second. So notice in the larger time frames, the yen has room below. And when we come to the 10-minute chart, by the way, the Japanese yen is the market that I traded for a long time before I even thought of trading any other market. So it's kind of funny how all that worked out. But anyway, watch up around the 113.70 area. You have two levels on top of each other. So we would, let's watch for that. I can plan this out with you here. Let's do that. Yeah, and again, you have a nice profit zone here. So let's just combine these two levels. We'll plan the whole thing out, including the stop and the target. So it's 113.70 on the entry, and we'll actually enter a little bit before that. We're going to combine two levels. Okay, and then I'm going to really blow this up. Just a second. So now this is very careful. This is very important. I'm sorry. We're going to go down a time frame to make sure we put the appropriate stop in, and then we're going to go up a time frame to help look at profit zone. So let's do that here. Let's cut this in half. What I'm looking for is what's above this. Like, do I just put my stop right above the level? You see how when I come down to this time frame here, at least I have something here. Say, you know what? Let's put the stop just above that. So let's do that. And remember, just because we've now have a supply zone, a proper entry, and a proper stop, I'm going to pull this down to right there. As you've probably seen already, the biggest challenge with your best opportunities and levels is you just don't get filled. Okay, sorry about that. Now let's go up a time frame, and let me explain why I'm doing that. You see all this stuff below here that I'm pointing to? This big pivot low, this big pivot low, that big pivot low? Well, again, what is that the picture of? Is that the picture of filled orders or unfilled orders? What would you say? Filled orders or unfilled orders? All this stuff right here. I mean, what is that? What is that the picture of? Yeah, filled orders, exactly. So remember, filled orders facilitate price movement. Unfilled orders cause prices to turn. So in other words, we'd expect prices to go down through that. So let's go to a little bit bigger time frame and see what's to the left. Right. So now we see that this pivot low is into, this kind of area of demand over here. But again, I wouldn't, that's not a big deal either. So then we have a big profit zone down to here. And there's a little demand zone in there. So we're going to do this. We're going to put a target in. Of right there. Okay? Make sense? So I can back out and you'll see what this looks like. There we go. I'm not sure why that happened. Oh, because we lost some days. Hang on. Yeah, I would not suggest using really small time frames for FX trading. So here's our entry, stop, and target. Risk reward looks fine. I'm just eyeballing it. That looks like, I don't know, 5, 6 to 1. So now, and the target is above these two areas of demand. So we're looking to get out. In other words, we've put our target where our target looks very attainable. In other words, instead of putting it at demand, we're putting it, well before demand. Yeah, I mean, any time frame where you see opportunity, sure. The challenge we're getting at is in the spot forex market. If you're really short-term trading these markets, it's going to be a challenge because of the spread, right? The broker is making a market for you. Make sense? So, that spread in spot FX is very different from the spread in trading the FX futures. So if you want to short-term trade the forex markets, I suggest you do it through the futures, not the spot market. Yeah, FX futures are great. If price never reaches the in TP, I think you mean is that target price? So the way I do it is just entry, stop, target, leave it alone. So if the trade meets entry, it's going to do one of two things. It's going to either stop out for a loss or hit your profit target. And I would just leave it. Leave it alone. Okay? All right, let's go on to another market. And again, I could go to any market you want to go to. So just let me know. There's the pound, but let's get past the pound. Oh, I know a market I wanted to look at here. Let's go over to gold. Oh, the Canadian? Sure. That was kind of next right here, but yeah, we'll go to gold after this. All right, so here's the Canadian dollar. In the larger time frames, not a whole lot to do. We do have some demand down here, but I'll just put this level in, and then we'll move on. I don't think there's hardly any risk of this being hit. Um, okay. Anytime soon. Yeah, there's but let's go to the daily. Let's blow up the daily a little bit because here's a great level that was already touched, but you could be back there, there's a very good chance before the next time that we meet here at FX Street, you can be back there. So, let's get this level in. There you go. And the reason why we put that back, I put that in, because you may say, well, that's not fresh. Right, but we just touched the level, touched the bottom of the level, and fell like a rock. So that means it's kind of another odds enhancer, right? That means we already have evidence that there's probably quite a bit of supply up there. So the next time up there, a new high into that level is very shortable. That's my point. Yeah, yeah, Carlos. So we'd look for literally just a tick above, a pip above this high. So whatever that high is, um, 29.16. So anything above that, 29.17. Does that make sense? 29.17, you're into fresh supply. That's the point. And then again, profit zone is pretty big on the downside. So now does that make sense? Well, we look at the dollar coming down into demand with a lot of room to the upside. Right? So everything's kind of lined up there. We just need to leave it and kind of let it do its thing. Okay. Let's go over to gold. Gold is just kind of sitting in this weekly zone. I don't know that there's a lot to do here. Okay, yeah, we'll go to the S&P next. Yeah, with gold, on multiple time frames, I would just leave this alone. It's kind of right in the middle. So, the S&P, yeah, be very careful though with so I think you're talking about this big pivot low over here, right? This thing. Let me go to your 30-minute chart like you're suggesting. You could get a bounce from here, but not likely. I mean, over time, I wouldn't take any of those. Remember, that's not a fresh level. Okay? Those pivot lows and pivot highs will never be the kind of fresh levels that we're looking for. All right, so let's go to let's pop over to the Nasdaq though, because I think we had some levels in there. We're just hitting our lower little demand zone here. Right? Didn't we have a little level in here? I thought we did. Oh no, we didn't. That's just our horizontal line. The area is much lower. We can go back to the S&P. Right, correct. And you don't have to look for the perfect setups. Okay. Like even now, you look at the S&P, I would say that there's room for this to fall. I mean, the chart's suggesting there's plenty of room for this to fall. So a little rally up to, well, certainly here, I'd say 78. And you're less than 60, you're 5 points away from that. A rally up to 78 is probably shortable down to, oops, I'm sorry. Yeah, down to like 60. Let's set that one up too. And I'll show you why I said 60 in a second here. There's that. 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 Here's 60. Not that we would, this is not any quality demand, but there's something there, obviously. Prices can't even get back there. So you could easily take prices down to 63, a target of 63. Even a more attainable target would be 64. But again, if you got there, I would actually expect prices. My target would be into the 40s. So, but again, I like those. You've probably seen them, and I go for those bigger moves. Make sense? Bigger targets there, and the chart needs to be offering that. So just make sure you understand this. And I'm not pushing you to do this, but for me, I'm playing fresh level to fresh level, and those are usually pretty big zones. You're going to have tons of pivot highs and pivot lows in between, and little speed bumps on tiny time frames. But I'm playing fresh level to fresh level because ultimately that's almost always where market prices go. Yeah, I was just going to go to crude, so let's do that. Let me pop back over to the NQ real quick though. Okay. Oh, we need to go to I believe it's the daily. We've got some good levels here in oil. So first of all, oil's, slowly coming down and sitting below. We obviously have this demand zone down here. And then if I scrunch this up, let's see what we have here. Okay. So there's that demand zone below. And obviously we got really close to this supply zone up here. And there's the gap. Let's see if we even got there. I think we did. 685. Okay, yeah. So there you go. So now we're kind of in the middle of that. So before you look at any smaller time frames or day trades or anything, it's a great idea to know where you're at in the bigger picture. So we just did that with looking at the daily, right? Now you can come down to smaller time frames and say, okay, are there any, short-term trades to do in oil? Your fresh levels are still down here where I have them. That's well below 54. We're nowhere near that at the moment. But there's not much in here. Wait, actually, you're already on a 30-minute chart. Hang on a second. Let's go down. Yeah, nothing really changes. There's nothing that quality up here to buy against. I would still say, according to this chart and these multiple smaller to medium to intermediate time frames, your level's still down there. And then above this high, you're into that daily supply zone. So at the moment, I would just say, hang tight with oil. If prices get out of this range or develop a new level, great. But at the moment, I'd probably leave it alone. Let's go back up here and let's look at another FX market. Actually, I think we covered all the big ones. Dollar Swiss The only reason why I wanted to bring you to this chart is two reasons. One, make sure you're aware, because I don't know when we're going to meet again, but these two weekly demand zones, and then on the 30 minute, 60 minute, let me just make it a 60 minute so we don't have to scrunch it up so much. Real nice supply zone sitting above with the whole flip concept, if you're familiar with our odds enhancers. So that's a very high probability level opportunity, right? And then, yeah, I'd probably leave that alone. Let's see here. How's everybody doing trading wise, though? Um, is the strategy working for you? Are you struggling with the psychology of trading? Are what are some challenges you're having? Or maybe you don't have any challenges and maybe things are going great. Yeah, Zoe, have you been at this for a while? And your feedback, I get feedback from you sometimes. It seems like you get the strategy. Yeah, exactly. Um, Staying trained. Yeah, the best you can do. Wow, great job, Zoab. Yeah, shoot me an email on that. There's my email address if you can. Be great to hear. And then, yeah, I saw a note above. Someone else is maybe having a little challenge holding to targets, and I think I try to preach this all the time. I would strongly suggest, you if anyone's having a challenge with this, just try it. Entry, stop, target, leave it alone. And if you're struggling to hold on to that position, either because of a fear of loss or you've got a big profit sitting in front of you and you don't want to let it go, just reduce your position size enough so that you're completely comfortable just leaving it alone and letting it go. You know what I mean? Um, you do that once and it's opens up a whole new world of opportunity, if that makes sense. Um, Here's a Nasdaq going lower like it should. Yeah, let me know how that goes, Mike. I'm happy to help if I can. So I put my email address in there, sseiden@tradingacademy.com, and we will see you next time. But shoot me an email, if you need to chat or interact before then. Okay. Spot forex brokers, Carlos. I don't know. I saw what happened to FXCM yesterday. The news on that. Yeah, it's I don't know. Other brokers are thriving in the futures world, obviously in the stock world, equity world, right? You're seeing brokers really thriving. It's spot forex is where the struggle is, but that'll all shake out. It always does. All right, we'll keep everything safe. And again, look at the Nasdaq. It's going right through this area of filled orders, like we said, right? So make sure you can see the difference between filled orders and unfilled orders. All right, have a great week, everyone, and we'll see you next time.